So last but not least, we have Dave Gardner, who's going to provide a presentation on redlining, FHA, and VA home buyers. Thank you for joining us, Dave. Apologize for the wait. Ryan, maybe I'll turn it over to you so you can do an introduction to start us.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you, Committee Chair Naring. I'd like to welcome Dave Gardner up to the table here with me. By way of introduction, Dave Gardner is a Senior Vice President with Mountain Pacific Bank for real estate lending. As you may recall, Dave reached out to council members by email on February 8th regarding his concerns about lending practices that may result in the redlining or exclusion of some would-be homebuyers from certain housing types. This issue is a result of interplay between lending standards for condominium home buyers and certain county regulations. A result is the exclusion of some people from having options available for purchasing a home. I would also add that Dave is a licensed professional surveyor and former owner of a land use consultancy. This background in both finance and land use gives Dave a unique perspective on some of the challenges facing people who would want to become homeowners. Committee Chair Naring, I think that's a sufficient introduction, and turn it back to you for this informational briefing on redlining FHA and VA homebuyers.
Great, thank you. Well, Dave, I'll just turn it right over to you. Start with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak today. Thank you for the introduction, Ryan. So forgive me if I go over some of those things again. Thank you again. The redlining of FHA and VA buyers is when it comes to accessory dwelling units. That's why I'm here today. The issue is, I'm not sure if the council is familiar with the term redlining, so I'll just go real quick through that, and somebody who's listening may not. Redlining's historic basis is in the discriminatory practice in which financial services are withheld from neighborhoods that have significant numbers of racial or ethnic minorities. That's a historic redlining factor. In our current situation, I use it to highlight the financing being withheld from our most challenged buyers, those that struggle with income, down payment, and credit issues, particularly FHA and VA buyers. It is not race-based redlining, but redlining of those that struggle the most to become homeowners. Just a little background to get started. Thank you. Again, Dave Gardner. I was raised here in Everett, a 1,000-square-foot rambler with 1 bathroom and 3 sisters, so I am scarred for life. But the 1,000-square-foot, 1,200-square-foot ADU, to me, is a livable home to get started in. I'm an Air Force veteran, professional land surveyor, and, as you mentioned, the Senior VP of Real Estate Lending at Mountain Pacific Bank, which is headquartered here in Everett. I'm also currently teaching classes regarding the ADU and DADU law as it was implemented in July of last year, HB 1337. If it was not for my VA loan, I do not believe I would have ever been able to buy a home. Even though it was way out in the sticks of Smoky Point in the day, it was still my first home and it was achievable. I stopped using affordable a long time ago. It was achievable with a lot of sacrifice. Homeownership is a true passion of mine. In fact, I've been boring people my entire life on why they should be owners and not renters. It's just my nature. The new law passed last year, HB 1337, regarding accessory dwellings and detached accessory dwellings is ground shaking. If things work out, it should bring a multitude of new housing types and options to our area. Having spent over 30 years in land use and listening to just this previous conversation reminds me why I'm not in land use. I know how difficult this must be to implement. A lot of pressure is going to be put on the county council, staff to figure out how to make this work. My issue is condos versus fee simple. Purpose today is simply enlighten you to the limits that FHA and VA buyers have regarding these new housing options. Currently, FHA and VA do not offer a financing option on an accessory dwelling unit that is a condo. Fee simple, yes. Condo, no. And we can get deep into the weeds on that. I wanted to respect your time. It seems my resume has put me in a place to recognize the problem, put a shining light on it, and hopefully be able to come up with some solutions to help solve it. Federal lending guidelines regarding condo units are very restrictive, especially when it comes to FHA and VA lending. Fee simple is not an issue for lending on these homes. Do you know the difference between between fee simple and condos? It's a simple ownership segregation difference. Condos are exempt by state law. So you can build something in conduit and circumvent subdivision. I shouldn't say circumvent, but not need to use the subdivision code to get there. Conventional buyers with great credit, good assets, and income will not struggle with the purchase of an ADU. I'm happy to go into detail, but suffice to say, to hammer the point home, condos versus lots, that's why I'm here. There's no shortage of scenarios that fee simple would solve. One we're working on right now is an elderly couple. They want to transition from their bigger house to have a builder come out and build them a nice little 1,000 square foot ADU. They'll move into the ADU, and the goal is to sell the house to the bigger house to their children. Problem is their children are credit challenged. So they can't get there with where we're at if we do a condo. If we can make them fee simple, then it's a simple FHA loan. We have 5 ships of sailors moving into Everett. With those 5 ships comes the sailors and their families. Wouldn't it be great if the council could be the heroes and figure out how to make these ADUs accessible to them with their VA loan? That's part of the conversation, is if we can fix this, this could be a model for all the counties and the cities in the state, and maybe even take it nationally, because housing is a national issue. The Air Force taught me to not bring a problem without a possible solution. So I believe that one of our options may be to look at the unit lot subdivision code, and I've highlighted some changes I might make to it. There's also some options to look at the cottage ordinance, if we can make that more amenable to developers and builders. Right now, it's a little cumbersome, and it has not been a tool in the toolbox that has been utilized. No doubt, well, and I can run through these suggestions, but in essence, what I've done is taken a look at the unit lot subdivision and tried to create a carve out for accessory dwelling units. If we already have to build them, which state law says we will, and the county is going to implement a code that allows for them to be built, and several cities in the county, or at least 2 that I can name, have already implemented the code, the law to code, then the question I'm asking is, how do we get from that to fee simple versus having to do a condo overlay? No doubt this will take smarter people than me to solve, but I believe there has to be a way. If the units have to be built based on state law and pending county code, then I truly believe there must be a way that we can get there. Home ownership is a passion of mine. So I'm not here to just talk cheap. I'll volunteer my time. I'll help however I can. Take my resume, put it to use. But the key for me is, how do we create these as home ownerships and not just rentals? And how do we not redline out FHA and VA buyers? So if you don't mind, I'd like to finish with a quote from one of my favorite holiday movies, It's a Wonderful Life. You know how long it takes a working man to save $5,000? Remember this, Mr. Potter. That rabble you're talking about, they do most of the working and paying and living and dying in this community. Well, is it too much to ask for them to work, pay, live, and die in a couple decent rooms and a bath? Thanks for allowing me to talk today.
Thank you, Dave. Really appreciate that, and appreciate your passion for home ownership. I know that was and is a big priority for this committee, and we held the panel series last year on that. And so I'd love to follow up with you on this and these various code ideas and see what we can do as a county to help make this more accessible for folks, achievable, as you said. I like that term. So again, really appreciate your time and look forward to follow up. Questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Dunn's first, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I know we're over time, so I'm also happy to follow up. I've been working on some changes for our ADUs. So right now you can only do an ADU or a DADU on with a single family residence. So looking at some changes and also bringing in into compliance the code changes with the state law. So happy to talk more. In those discussions, I've also been hearing that it is hard to kind of not pencil it out, but you can't get a loan for some of the work to build the ADU because there's just banks don't understand what we're trying to do. So I would encourage looking at some of the work that Pierce County and Tacoma have been doing around Black home ownership, and that's been mainly looking at connections. So their first steps, and we had a great presentation on this with the PSRC Growth Management Board, but it was more about connections and bringing together the banks and the developers and then community groups to kind of revamp and look at some of that work. So happy to talk more, and also grew up in one bathroom house with 2 girls as one of 3 sisters, so not easy.
Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you coming. I really appreciate you bringing solutions too. A lot of people come to us with problems and they expect us to fix all their problems and don't bring solutions. So that really means a lot to me that you're bringing something forward. And I know we're short on time, but also the DADUs or ADUs, that's my love language, and I'm working hard behind the scenes on that. And so I appreciate you talking about that. But obviously, when we look at our rural areas and look at home ownership in our rural areas, the new homes in our rural areas are really unaffordable, or as you say, unachievable. And I guess my question for you is, what do you see as ways to encourage more achievable home ownership in our rural areas? You see some ways for us to do that. Is DADUs really the only option, or do you see other ways that we can make sure that there's opportunities for people in rural areas?
Well, given where we're at with the Growth Management Act and the handcuffs that come with that, that's a really tough conversation to have. How do we get past that? Inside the urban growth areas, I think we have lots of potential, and that kind of differentiates that hard line. When we talk about the rural area, I believe it was FutureWise that had heartache with just the acceptance of an additional DADU, and I think that's where that got rolled back, if I'm correct.
You're correct.
The tough part is we have the same need in the rural areas we do in the urban areas. We have, as I mentioned, the example of the older couple who want to transition, but they want to stay where they've spent their life. And how do they transition to a smaller home and stay where they've spent their life? Given where we're at, we don't have that flexibility unless we attach and make it more like a duplex. Councilman, I'm not sure how we get past that unless you can manage that at the state level. Happy to have a conversation, though.
Probably a different conversation for a different audience.
Right. And to address Councilwoman Dunn, as a local bank, we are well aware of the financing on this, and we are getting out in front of that as far as the construction goes. And we do a lot of construction and development, so it's definitely in our wheelhouse. This is where local banking really comes into play versus the big nationals.
Great, thank you. Other questions or comments? All right, we really
Yeah.
appreciate your time. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Councilmember Peterson.
No worries. Just real quick, and again, we can kind of, I think, continue these conversations longer, but on the kind of VA FHA conundrum, and there's other space in other condominium world, do you know is there some federal work being done to try to get Freddie and Fannie to change some of those policies and open that up? And the next question would be, and this is kind of similar to what Councilmember Lowe was talking about on state level. We've got a bill on lot splitting that we're hoping to get through next year. Do you think that would help alleviate some of that kind of condo versus fee simple problem?
Absolutely. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I think House Bill 1245 would have been a game changer. It would have solved a lot of these problems that I'm dealing with as far as FHA and VA buyers. If you just think about being able to take at least one lot, split it in half, now at least we can be fee simple on both parcels. I am curious how it would be implemented on the local levels, the county and the city levels, as far as where it would pigeonhole into which part of the code. But I do think that is an amazing carve out. If it would have gotten passed, it would have been great. I do hope it comes through next year. In regards to Fannie, Freddie, VA, FHA financing, and HUD, I'm here today because I can actually talk to you. I'm not sure that they have it on their radar because, as far as they know, this problem doesn't exist.
All right, well, thank you, Dave. Really appreciate your time joining us, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of follow-up, it sounds like. So thanks again.
Thank you.
That concludes our agenda. We will be in recess until tomorrow morning, 6 p.m. That's right. That's why I looked to make sure I get it right. We'll be in recess until our night meeting in Mill Creek at 6 p.m. Thank you.